Hello, Kedem viewers. Professor Garfinkel of the Hebrew University was very excited to tell me about his new finding. I am on my way to find out why and what might be so exciting in a tiny broken old comb. Let's ask the professor. Welcome to Kedem channel, and today I am very glad to be with Professor Yosef Garfinkel from Hebrew University in Jerusalem.
Thank you, Alex. It's always a pleasure to be interviewed by you.
Recently you published a finding which is in fact something we all know. It's a comb. But this finding now is at New York Times, one of the most popular articles on the New York Times website. So it's a huge news just breaking around the world about this finding.
The significance is not the comb. What is so significant is the inscription which was incised on the comb. This is the unique object, the first sentence written in alphabet that we have. All the other inscriptions are fragmentary, broken. We have 2 words, 1 word, few letters. So far, even one Canaanite sentence was not found in this alphabet. It's possible that people were writing sentences even 100 or 200 years before, but they have not been preserved. This alphabet is used today in Hebrew and Arabic and other Semitic languages, and then it was moved into Greek and Latin and all the European languages using this script and some of these letters till today. And this is the earliest sentence we have in alphabet. So it's really relevant to every person who read and write in alphabetic script. And we were in hundreds and hundreds of different media, including the top of the top, like the London Times and the New York Times. Okay, so when we are holding ancient object, especially such a delicate object, we must use gloves. And this is the comb. On one side, we have condensed teeth, small teeth, and on the other side, which is unfortunately broken, we have the larger teeth. By the way, you can see here the area where we scraped material for radiocarbon dating.
So functionally wise, it's very similar to what we have today.
Exactly. We have today the same combs exactly, but today they are made from metal or sometimes from plastic. And this one is made from ivory. Now the ivory is a very rare raw material. We don't have elephant in Israel. So this had to be, the elephant was probably hunted in Egypt and brought to Lachish, maybe already engraved as a comb, and here it was, the inscription was added.
So what is actually written on the comb?
I can read it it's very similar to Hebrew, so I can read it. Itash chat zi lekamal se'ar vezakat. Which means that this ivory, it's not saying comb, it's saying ivory. Chat. Chat is the elephant tusk in Hebrew and also in Canaanite, apparently. So this ivory tusk will remove lice, will remove the lice from hair and beard. It's a very banal inscription. It's not a royal inscription. It's not a song, love songs. It's not a letter sending from one person to another.
It describes the function of this object.
Yeah. On the comb itself, there is a wish that he will do the job as needed.
How you date it and to what period?
Dating is a big question, and we have this debate about the invention of the alphabet. The inscription was incised on an ivory. And ivory is an organic material which can be dated by a radiocarbon method. And we tried twice. We scraped a bit of the ivory, we sent it to Oxford University for radiocarbon dating, and they failed. So we sent another sample, and they failed again. There's not enough carbon preserved in the ivory. Maybe if we will take the whole ivory, grind it, and do testing, maybe it will succeed. But it's not possible, of course, to destroy such an artifact. So the object was excavated at Lachish in area AA. These are the excavation of Southern Adventist University, which was headed by Professor Michael Hazel and Professor Martin Kleinbein. They were responsible, they excavated. In their excavation, the comb was found. Then the comb was taken by Madeleine Mumchuglo to look if there are lice on it. And she tried, she was looking through a microscope, and indeed she found the lice. And she even tried to do DNA analysis, but there was not enough DNA analysis. There was not enough DNA preserved on the lice. So this research didn't succeed. But after 6 years, suddenly she noticed that there are letters on it. 6 years, nobody noticed that we have letters on the ivory. Even I hold it in my hand at least 10 times. And let's say that 5 times the inscription was on the upper part and 5 times it was in the lower part. So I looked at it at least 5 times and I didn't see the inscription. It was incised in such tiny letters and so shallow that only with very special photographing techniques it's possible to see the inscription. So after Madeleine noticed the inscription, it was given to Daniel Weinstub, Dr. Daniel Weinstub, an epigraphist from Beersheba University, Ben Gurion University in Beersheba, and he, thanks to the photographs, he was able to recognize the letters, and then he deciphered the inscription. Now there are 2 more scholars who were involved, and this is Professor Yuval Goren, also from Ben Gurion University in the Negev, and Professor Rivka Rabinovich from Hebrew University, and both of them were checking the material, because in the inscription the word ivory is mentioned. And it was important to see if the comb is indeed made from ivory or maybe bone.
So if you tried actually a few times to make a carbon analysis and you did not manage to get the results, so how you date this finding and how you know that this belongs to the Canaanite period of, I don't know, 17th century BC? That's more or less your suggestion, right?
Here we come to the field of paleography. According to the shape of the letters, you can see more or less the dating. It's not very accurate, but you can see that it's more typical to the Middle Bronze. In the Late Bronze, we have a well-dated inscriptions. They're already much more developed. And when you're going to the Iron Age, the letter again has been changed and are more developed. This is still quite pictorial. For example, we have here the letter Kuf, which is like Q in English, and Kuf, it means monkey. Kuf is monkey, and if you look here, you see the head of the monkey, the body of the monkey, and the tail. And here is another Kuf, you can see the head, the body, and the tail. And what's happening in Q in English, you have a circle and a line. The line in the Q in English is the tail of the monkey. You can see that this type of Canaanite inscription and Canaanite writing is, much of it is still preserved in capital letters in English today. So from the invention of the alphabet, and as I said, there is debate, the earliest suggestion is 1900 BC, the later one talk about the 14th century BC. So it's about 500 years different between the highest and the lowest proposed dating. I think that it's somewhere, this specific inscription is probably somewhere in the middle. So we suggested about 1700 BC.
Professor Garfinkel, what can you say about the people who lived in that period at Lachish, who maybe used this comb? What we know about them and what we know about the site?
Lachish is one of the major Canaanite cities in Canaan, and later it was a major city in the Kingdom of Judah. And this is thanks to its geopolitical and geographical location. It's halfway between Ashkelon and Hebron. And Ashkelon is a big port city, and you have a lot of goods coming into the port, and maybe export things outside. So you have movement in and out. And what happens is that caravans will go from Ashkelon one day, about 25 kilometers, they will come to Lachish. They can stay a few days, buy, sell, do all kind of transaction, and then if they walk another day, they will go to Hebron. So Lachish is halfway between Hebron and Ashkelon. A day, and it's a day walk to each place.
How big was the site?
The site of Lachish was about 8 hectares. Now, it's not the biggest site in Israel. Ashkelon was about 60 hectares at this time. Chatzor in Galilee was about 80 hectares at the time. Megiddo is 6 hectares. Gezer is about 11 hectares. So Lachish is one of the medium-sized cities, not the biggest. But still, it was a very strong economic center and also probably intellectual center because they kept the alphabet. Most of the alphabetic inscription, Middle Bronze and Late Bronze, which were found in Israel, are from Lachish. And we also have from Lachish 3 temples. So it was a cultic center, intellectual center, and probably also economic and political strong place. And in order to understand the importance of the inscription, we need to have some background about the development of writing. Because writing is one of the most important intellectual achievements of humankind, because it enables us to document things and to transfer them from generation to generation. And without writing, we would still be in the Stone Age. So writing is something rooted very deep in the development of civilizations. Now, the earliest writing system developed in Mesopotamia by the Sumerian. We have the cuneiform tablet, and people incised letter on these clay tablets. Later, we have in Egypt the hieroglyph system, which were written on papyrus.
500 years before our age.
More or less, yes. In the later part of the 4th millennium BC, yes. But here is the catch, because these were very complicated writing systems. And only scribes who learned in schools few years how to read and write were able to write. And that means that in a big city, in a big Sumerian city, maybe there were 2, 3, or 4 people who knew how to read and write. Even the kings didn't know how to read and write. It was really a profession that was kept by a very small percentage of the population. Now the Canaanite, about 1000, and this is a big debate, by the way, when the alphabet was invented. The key site is Sarabit el-Khadem. It's an Egyptian temple in the mined area in southern Sinai. And in this area, about 40, 50 inscriptions were found already more than 100 years ago. And this is the earliest alphabetic inscriptions, and they were, the letters are under Egyptian influence, that's for sure. So the connection between Canaanite and Egypt created the alphabet. It was a moment in history where this was invented. In the beginning, there were 32 letters, and slowly it went down. Today, we have 22 letters in the alphabet. So the Canaanite invented the alphabet, and this enabled every person in the world to read and write. If we are still using today the Akkadian system or the Egyptian system, only few people would know how to read and write. And I think that without the alphabet, the Bible wouldn't be written, and many other documents. So this is really one of the most important intellectual achievements of humankind, and this is the contribution of the Canaanite to humankind.
Okay, Professor Yosef Garfinkel, thank you very much.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
And somehow you are always behind the most fascinating findings in the recent years in archaeology in Israel. How you can explain it?
I don't know, I'm just excavating.